What's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Now listen, this next video, man, it's pretty crazy. You know what I mean? It's one of these videos that got several clips, but one of the clips they put in the title, right? So that's what caught me. It said this woman hasn't washed her hair for over 20 years, and this is what came of it, right? So if you see, if I did the thumbnail right, if you see her hair, it is, and you talking to somebody, listen, I'll let y'all in on a little bit of a backstory. I used to have dreads back in the day, like dreads. So you can't tell me like, oh, people who have dreads, you know, they don't wash it really because they want it to lock up, and then once it lock up, they don't really, no. It's not true. I had dreads. Yes, you gotta let it go, but they use certain things to help lock it up. Beeswax, for once. It's a hair care product that they use to help lock it up, right? And yes, I had my hair washed. Like, I'm not that type of person. I can't see myself going like, so for somebody to not have washed their hair, like I knew people who had dreads that found spiders in their stuff. Like, it was, yeah, I just got to hear this story if they break it down like that, since it's one of the stories in there, bro. I got to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Just for my own personal, like, I got to know, why would you not wash your hair for 20 years, bro? We're going to get to the bottom of this. Let's check these stories out, but definitely that one.
Hello, everyone. Tell us honestly, do you think that the lives of people around you are all the same? Well, in a sense, this is true. We travel the same subway routes, order food from the same restaurants, and dream of similar things. However, each of us is unique, though some are slightly more different than others. Are you ready to learn the most exciting stories about people who've ignored public opinion and live by their own rules? Then
and let me say this before we get into it. I'm one of those people that I don't care what you think or how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Do I care a little bit? Yes, I care a little bit, but for the most part, no, I don't care. I walk to the beat of my own drum, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about being different. You know what I'm saying? People was like, oh, when the whole skinny jean thing, oh, you gotta wear skinny jeans. No, it wasn't for me. I just didn't, I never cared for that. Oh, you gotta, no, not for me. You gotta wear the big shoes with the skinny pants and it look like you're walking around with clown shoes. It's not for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm me, and I'm unapologetically me.
Watch the video to the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's get it on.
About to give y'all a freestyle.
Man with a giant lip. Evgeny Bolotov, who lives in Russian Perm, rarely goes out with an uncovered face. And not only because the temperature in this region is below zero for much of the year, he just got fed up with ridicule and comments from other people. It's not surprising the guy's appearance gets the passers-by all worked up. In his hometown, and perhaps in the whole world, he might be the only one who looks like.
How do you eat with that, bro? Like, huh? That's gotta be like, it's just a weight on your mouth like always dry.
That. His face endured extreme body modifications, which he began to do since the age of 10. The most noticeable of them is a huge plate on the lower lip. Talking with such a thing in your mouth is not very comfortable, but Evgeny doesn't care.
Это в какой-то степени меня ограничивает, конечно, зато открывает мне многое другое.
In his own words, all his life he dreamed of being like a platypus. Seems like he's doing it pretty well. Yes, for Evgeny, every new piercing is a real art. Moreover, the artist makes each piece himself based on the current mood. Although in his homeland not everyone appreciates the image of the guy, many foreign beauty magazines write about him, and some modeling agencies even invite him as a model. Highly unsanitary. You can assume that all people are more or less the same when it comes to everyday life, until you start sharing a room with someone. Believe us, the habits of another person can be horrifying. We all have different ideas about cleanliness, laundry, personal boundaries, and comfort, and this woman clearly stands out from the rest. Cornelia from the UK lives in a posh old mansion. It's about 400 years old, and it looks more like some kind of monarch's residence. However, this is where the similarities end. As soon as the doors to the house open, the guests get shocked. You need to be a very patient and well-mannered person not to immediately pinch your nose because of this stench. The thing is that Cornelia has been
Did anybody just like almost can smell it through the screen, or was it just me? I was like, am I starting to smell it through the yo?
living here for almost 30 years, and she's never done any cleaning. She simply refuses to use cleaning products or any household chemicals at all. The only thing she uses is an outlandish polish that the woman makes herself, and water with a sponge. As you can imagine, cleaning like that would not destroy bacteria. But why would an adequate person live like that? Well, according to Cornelia, this is a necessary measure to preserve the historical value of her home. The woman believes that modern means would simply ruin her precious furniture and antique finishes. The smell of perfume simply terrifies her as well. Needless to say, the shower and bathtub simply don't work here. Living a life of character.
Dang, bro, like she hasn't cleaned ever, forever. Like, oh, bro, like, nah, you gotta just bulldoze that. No, nah. There's stuff in there you fighting, you can't even see. Like, stuff just crawling on you. Nah.
Sometimes the love for characters from comic books and movies can turn into a real obsession. People begin to buy up all the merch dedicated to their favourite character, cosplay them, and study the entire history of their creation. Though it's a different thing when a person becomes their favourite character in the literal sense of the word. Yep, things like that can happen too. Here's a good example for you. Lawrence Sullivan from Miami, USA. Can you spot 5 differences between him and the DC Joker? Tattoos, hair color, even facial expressions. Seems like a carbon copy of the main antagonist of the Suicide Squad. The only thing missing is Harley Quinn at his side. Well, maybe the hair color could have been greener, but the similarities between Lawrence and the famous supervillain don't stop there. He can also hardly be called a law-abiding citizen. He's regularly arrested for minor offenses, although he's almost always immediately released afterwards. The thing is, this guy is much politer when dealing with police officers than his actual role model. Well, that's something at least. Zoo at home. In the outskirts of the Russian capital, there is one house everyone in the country was talking about a couple of years ago. Residents started to move out of the house en masse back then, but not because of a woeful state of the building or anything like that. The thing is, shortly before that, an unusual family had moved into the high-rise building. 2 adults, 4 children, and about 50 cats and dogs moved into a
50, bro? I'm struggling with 2. 50? Yo, 2 is a full-time job, bro. How do you care for 50? It's no way. It's no way. 50 dogs and cats? That's if they go 3 times a day, whoo, the amount of poop. Oh, the smell, oh.
4-room apartment, which would be shocking in and of itself, but the surprises didn't end there. No one was walking the animals, so flies, cockroaches, and other living creatures had gathered there in just a couple of months. Needless to say, the other residents were not happy. After the whole city and many people outside of it learned about the horrible apartment, authorities grew interested in the family. Only after the apartment owners got threatened with being deprived of their parental rights did they finally decide to make repairs and change their lifestyle. All the animals were eventually sent to a shelter. They'll probably feel better there. Piercing addiction. We are used to making quick judgments about people based on their looks. Do you think it's the right thing to do? Perhaps not really. After all, it's unlikely that a person became horribly unprofessional because they dyed their hair a bright colour. or got a bold tattoo. However, the case of Ekaterina Mayarova is special. She has not been a teenager for a long time, but she loves to express herself with the help of body modifications. So much so that the number of piercings on her face has already exceeded 100, and almost her entire body is covered in tattoos. At the same time, she makes a living working as a psychologist and business analyst, and in her spare time writes beautiful poems. Nobody really gets her in the small Russian city of Rybinsk, where she lives with her husband. At best, passers-by just stare at her, but most often they make some unflattering comments. But is it fair if the girl is happy and doesn't hurt anyone with her hobby? Good food for thought. Overwhelming fear. We wonder if there are any people in the world who feel absolutely calm before a visit to the dentist. We could probably count them on the fingers of one hand. However, in some cases, the phobia of dentists is so strong that the person refuses to visit one for decades. That's what happened to Angie Barlow from the British city of Altrincham. She found an unusual way of dealing with her fear. Every time she lost another tooth, the woman simply glued it back in with superglue.
What is up with y'all in Superglue, bro? No! Oh my gosh, bro, if I hear another Gorilla Superglue or whatever type of glue story this year, bro, I'm gonna lose it. Hey, what is up with y'all?
Went on for 10 years. You probably already realised that it didn't end well. You see, there are many chemicals in superglue, and many of them are extremely toxic. So, due to long exposure to the dangerous substance, Angie lost 90% of the bones supporting her teeth. In the end, the woman still had to go to the dentist, and this time stay in their office for a long time. The doctor inserted titanium screws and the lost teeth into her gums. Artificial teeth, of course. Living skeleton. Many people can't stand being the center of attention, and others, on the contrary, live for it. Sandro from Germany is one of the latter. For almost 20 years, he's been modifying his body in some mind-boggling ways. But the most shocking of those is, of course, his severed ears. The guy took this step to make his head look as much like a naked human skull as possible. If you thought that nothing could be creepier than that, then here's another detail for you. Sandro decided to keep the severed ears for himself, and now shows them to his guests the first chance he gets. Well, before you judge him, remember Van Gogh? After all creative people are crazy in their own way. Monster hair.
Here we go. And yes, all creative people are somewhat crazy. People said Kanye was crazy, but I just got word Kanye is like worth now $6.6 billion. Who's crazy now, people? I'm thinking about obtaining a little bit of crazy in me, bro. You know what I'm saying? If that's gonna make my bank account shoot up, then crazy, here I come.
Have you ever thought about what would happen if you never cut your hair at all? Well, it all depends on the person. Of course, not everyone's hair will keep growing indefinitely. Most likely, at some point it will stop, but not necessarily. Some people, because of their own beliefs or strange habits, grow giant braids. However, after many years without care or getting haircuts, they're more likely to look like one thick dreadlock or a fat python, rather than Rapunzel's hair. Here is a good example. An elderly woman from Vietnam who's not cut her hair in almost 65 years. By the age of 83, her hair had turned into one huge 19-foot-long tangle. Why did the Asian woman condemn herself to such torment? It turns out that everything is exactly the opposite. At the age of 19, when she last cut her hair, she started to have terrible headaches. They began to pass only as the hair grew, and only if she didn't wash the hair. That's when the Vietnamese woman decided never to have her hair cut ever again, and according to her, it really helped. How her head didn't ache under the weight of so much hair, though, is still a mystery. By the way,
I've never heard of that before. I'm gonna have to ask Queen about that because she suffers with like headaches and migraines. So if you never cut your hair or you let it grow a little longer, then maybe you can get that may be something we try. Now we're not gonna go that far, but maybe I can get her to try to just let it grow out some more, a little more length to it and see what happens. It might be better.
A couple of men with mono dreads in India as well. This resident of Munga, for example, grew almost 2 meters of hair by the age of 55, and it seems that he's only getting started. Prophetic drawing. Have you ever seen street artists draw funny caricatures for a couple of bucks? Not everyone would be able to appreciate them, but some people are quite capable of laughing at themselves. However, this girl from the UK liked a caricature of herself many years ago, so much so that she firmly decided to become just like it. Today, Christina is already in her 30s, and she spent half of her life striving to look like the supposedly perfect image of herself that she once bought during a vacation in Ibiza. During this time, she's done dozens of plastic surgeries, lost almost 176 pounds, and spent over $260,000 on all of it. We wonder how the author of the caricature would feel if he saw a video about this girl. Heavy load. We all sometimes think that we could lose some weight. However, for some people, obesity becomes life-threatening. Just imagine, this guy called...
And if you don't know that, and you haven't watched the video I put out about the tragic stories for the My 600 Pound Life show, go check it out. And if I haven't dropped it yet, just be patient. It's coming. Well, it's crazy.
Paul Mason was once the biggest man on Earth. In his worst days, he weighed almost 1,000 pounds. Needless to say, it's simply not possible to go outside in such a condition. Everything changed though in 2010. Paul had been confined to a special chair bed for many years at that point already, and the Brit simply couldn't keep living like that. At some point, he decided to have gastric bypass surgery. Surgeons reduced the size of his stomach to the size of a chicken egg, and Paul's body began to gradually deflate like a balloon. As a result, he lost about 660 pounds and almost went below 200. However, after moving to the United States, pizza and French fries did their job. The man gained some weight once.
A good old pizza and a good old French fries, bro. Get you every single time.
Again. However, he definitely doesn't intend to go back to his former size. Doll World. Did you know that the real Ken actually lives in tropical Brazil? Here he is, young Felipe Adam, who lives on the coast of Sao Paulo and spends all of his strength and money on transforming...
Bro, if he went like this, you'd think he was a mannequin, bro. I promise you.
...into the legendary doll. Felipe spends a few hours a day like a regular waiter, but the rest of the time, he is the brilliant Barbie companion. Even his pose is exactly the same. The guy doesn't go out of character even during school classes or trips to the beach. However, unlike many other Ken lookalikes, Philippe has not yet had any plastic surgeries, not only because those are very expensive, but also because he's not yet reached the age of majority. That's why he builds his entire image using exclusively makeup, costumes, and wigs. It takes him about 4 hours to transform each time. But Philippe's plan is to reduce this agony by having about 40 surgeries, like rhinoplasty and buccal fat removal. Do you think he'll regret it later? Well, there are a lot of living Kens around the world, and even more live Barbies. For example, Nanette Hammond from Ohio, who spent $500,000 on our transformation into a doll. That money went on operations, regular hair coloring, installing a solarium in her own home, and daily trips to the gym. Today, the woman is already in her late 50s, which means that she's been into plastic surgeries for over half of her life. She says that she doesn't plan to stop until she's at least 70. To complete the image, she even has as many as 3 pink cars. And just think about it for a moment. 6 kids. Well, Nanette's vitality is something to be envied, don't you think? Adult child. We all hated cleaning when we were kids, but then when we begin our independent lives, there's no getting away from it. Well, this woman doesn't think so. Madeline is far over 15 years old, and yet she's not cleaned her house even once. And that's despite the fact that she suffers from bronchial asthma, which of course is only aggravated by dust. Only the birth of her grandson managed to convince the British woman to clean up in her house. At that moment, it became clear that
it's making me itch, bro.
Bringing a child to such a home would definitely not work. So, Madeline decided to take part in a famous TV show and entrust the cleaning to professionals. But of course, she will have to clean up regularly. Otherwise, everything will go back to its previous state in a couple of years once again. Hold on a sec.
Whew. All right, man, I'm finna go take a shower, bro. Feel nasty after watching this, man. Feel dirty. I'm gonna go take a shower, bro. Y'all let me know what y'all thought of this video, man. Till the next reaction on my piece. Y'all stay solid. Hey.